Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Carly. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. So, how do you pronounce your last name?
Pepin.
Pepin. Okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't want to butcher it, so I
Yeah, no
figured
stress.
out. So, can you give the people a little bit of background about yourself before we dive into the questions?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a human behavior specialist and a speaker, and individuals come to me when they're looking to overcome certain misperceptions, certain challenges that are causing them to actually be stuck. So they feel stuck, stagnant, and they want to move forward generally in their business and in their finances. And sometimes it doesn't always root from business and finances. Sometimes it's challenges in our relationships and our personal life that are driving that as well. So we really dive in, do some deeper work, get them to the other side so they can move on and move forward in their vision and purpose. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's get it going. So what inspired you to focus on human behavior as your area of expertise?
Yeah, that came from my own personal challenges, just having my own personal struggles in life and in same thing, just feeling stuck and stagnant and disconnected from myself. And so I started to study outside of traditional methodologies and I started to learn about human behavior in the sense of why we do the things that we do, what really is life purpose, how is that actually like more of a practical thing and how does that apply practically not just into our lives but also into our business, our finances, so personal, professional life, and how to utilize that to help empower ourselves to move forward to a greater degree. And it just really worked. Like it just started working and it started working well. And so I just, that was it. Like if something works really well, I go pretty hard on it. So I went hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's that's what most people fail to do. If something goes right, they don't. It's like they're more. Usually, most people are scared to go forward with it instead of putting all their eggs in that basket. So per se, um,
Hmm.
can you share maybe like a pivotal moment in your in was it so? I know you said it came from things in your life that made you want to focus on that. Was there one particular moment that led you to become an international speaker and consultant?
I would say it was just kind of like a compound interest of just my life. So I was living in Los Angeles and I was feeling really dissatisfied with how things are going and how my life was looking, even though I had a great job and I had a car, I had a house, I had some great things in my 20s, you know, so I was actually doing quite well. And it was interesting because inside I was miserable, you know, I was miserable. And so I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I had the opportunity to move to Australia for a year. And so I took it. And when I went there, I thought things would get better and they got worse because it wasn't on the outside. So I was blaming all the things on the outside for my problems and it was on the inside. But when I took away everything on the outside, that was when it really hit me that it's all coming from the inside. And that's when I found my first coach, right? So I got my first coach. When the student is ready, the teacher definitely appears. And it was kind of, you think it's random, but it definitely wasn't random. Definitely was destiny to run into that woman. And she started teaching me about our values, purpose, priority in a different way. And we started to tackle the challenges I had utilizing like my life purpose, my values, as opposed to just in how the universe works, as opposed to just like he said, he should, shouldn't. It was really cool. It was really cool. So I was having someone help me really understand who I was, and that in turn was transformative for me and giving me self like permission to be who I wanted to be. That was phenomenally transforming. Yeah. And that was like, who's your teacher? How do I do what you do? Give me more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. Okay,
Um,
how do you define perceived flaws and why are they so important in personal development?
Yeah, so we anything that we label as a flaw is a perception that it has more negatives than positives, more drawbacks than benefits, right? And so we'll perceive that we're missing something inside of us and we'll compare ourselves to the outside world thinking that we need to like jump through all these hoops or do all this crazy stuff to become this person that we admire. When the truth is we actually have those things in our own form, in our own unique form, right? So it was really interesting because it was I was even going through like a session today with a client. We were discussing their perceived flaw of creating an impact in the world. And then when we actually looked at how they were creating an impact, it was in the way that was most inspiring to them. And it was their family. And when they realized that, they got tears of gratitude, right? Tears of gratitude and the heart opening for the life that they created, not the life that they thought they should have, right? So that's the perceived flaw. The perceived flaw is the comparison to the outside world that we think we should have. And in those moments, we're actually discounting the beautiful life that we've created in our own form that's more important to us than these other forms. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what would you say are some common misconceptions that people have about their own behavior?
Yeah, so when we think about it, there's a lot of body dysmorphia that people have. So people who look in the mirror and they see themselves one ways and they might put themselves down thinking, they look a certain way, not realizing, again, the seer, the seeing, the seen are the same. So whatever you see on the outside, you spot it, you got it. There's mental dysmorphias, people who think they're stupid, not smart enough, right? So those are often the individuals that study the hardest. What winds up happening is they're just discounting and disowning those parts within ourselves. So it's a perceived flaw. Also, it's when we think about this as well, it's like we think that we're supposed to have all of these things to an extreme that we label as good, but we're not seeing how it serves us to have the other side, right? So I say this to all lifelong learners, which usually there's some learners listening to podcasts. I cannot imagine knowing everything. I can't imagine knowing it all. What a tragedy. Like, what a genuine tragedy to have nothing left to learn. I love learning. So if someone ever told me I had nothing left to learn and I was smart enough and I knew it all, I mean, to me, that's a genuine tragedy. So I'm grateful that I have a level of stupidity in many areas of my life. I have things that I'm an expert in, and I also have things that I'm pretty dumb in, and I'm looking forward to continuing to learning about those things. So we perceive it as flaws, not understanding that, like, if I don't have all the information, I get to go sign up for a course, I get to read a book, I get to connect with a friend and ask them questions, right? Even if you love doing podcasts, you get to have different guests on and ask them questions and learn. Like, what an opportunity to not know, right? So when we see the other side of how valuable it is to not just have the knowledge and information, but also not have it, we realize that our perceived flaws are also gifts. And now we can look at it and we're like, well, is it really a flaw? And it's like, actually, it's not a flaw. It's just like part of my journey. I labeled it as a flaw because it was a misperception of mine.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I definitely understand. Um, so can you explain a little bit of the process for helping individuals transform their personal stories?
Yeah, so that's part of our personal stories too, is when we think about that inner voice and how we talk to ourselves, right? Like, you might wake up and you might be like, I'm stupid, I'm, ugly, I'm this, I'm that, like, I'm not good enough, right? And we want to get the specificities of how, like, what do you perceive you're actually missing, and then find it in your own form. Again, I was working with someone today who they were talking about how they were lacking the skill of marketing. And I was like, no way, man. I mean, I've worked with her not even that long, and I can see how well she's in the marketing. But she was comparing herself to digital marketing world, where she's amazing in the live events category, right? And so when we were like going through it, yeah, I was like, okay, well, where is your form of marketing? And we could see it. And I was like, can you see how masterful you've gotten in live marketing? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So she had a perception and a story that she was running that she needed to have her marketing in a digital platform. When the truth is, she has a superpower in live marketing. And it's like, okay, let's find out how you can create more business there. Right. And it's funny because when we do that, she lit up. She felt more relaxed, more relieved, because she didn't have to do something that wasn't inspiring to her in the online digital world. If you like events, you like community, and you like people, you don't want to sit in front of a computer all day. So if I pop her in front of a computer and I master her there, like, she's going to be sad. But if I put her in front where she's already masterful because she loves it, like, she's going to really enjoy it. So that's part of knowing ourselves as well. Yeah. And changing that story, not just to see where we have the gift, but make sure you're aligning with the life that lights you up, that inspires you, that energizes you, or else you just like put it aside forever because you don't want to do it.
Right. And yeah, I can only imagine. So with you helping change a lot of people's personal story and making them realize, like, hey, you are doing something great in life, even though you don't think you are. I'm sure that probably helps out with people's mental health all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very stressful. So think about how stressful it is to have these goals and particular things you want to achieve. And then you're sitting there and you're like, why am I not doing it? I know this is good for me. I know I want it. Yeah, I just refuse to do it. And then you're like, what's wrong with me? You know, like you feel like something's defunct. You start judging yourself. You're like, I'm not motivated enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And all of a sudden your self-worth starts to go down. Right. And so if we're not paying attention, and this is funny, this is where we become also our own best coaches sometimes, is asking those quality questions. It's not what's wrong with me that I'm not doing this. It's like, well, why am I not doing this in this moment? Like, what am I doing instead? Because whatever I'm doing instead is actually more important. So it's a great example with the marketing sample that I just gave you. They're not sitting down and doing digital marketing, but they're definitely doing live in-person event marketing. And it's like, so you are doing exactly what you wanted. It just wasn't the form that you thought. Right. So we want to find out what you're actually doing, what's truly inspiring to you. Because sometimes it could be you want to sit and tell me you want to run a business and own a business, but you're not doing the work to have a business. But then if I see what you're doing all day, and if you're spending time and you're investing with your family, maybe you are an avid reader and an avid learner, maybe you love doing something like that, maybe you have another hobby or skill, right? Then I know that that's more important to you than building a business. And that's okay. That's genuinely okay. You don't have to build a business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to have a fulfilling life. You could also go work in a company that helps and supports and gives you the financial support so that you can do all the things that you love and build financial independence, all at the same time. So it's like dropping that judgment and that perception that you need to be something or should be something, and really truly understanding who you are opens up the path in your mind, right? In your forebrain, your executive center, where it tells you exactly where you want to go. And then you have certainty. And then it doesn't have to look like anyone else's forms. And you're like, nah, this is it. This is me. This is the life that I love. And you feel it. Yeah, it's inspiring to you.
So just by me listening to this, and just by me listening to this, it sounds like to me that, I'm not sure because I haven't, took your course or anything like that, but it sounds like to me, you probably telling your clients, hey, don't look at what they're doing on social media. Don't try to, just because someone say this is what you're supposed to be doing, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should be doing. Don't follow trends. Like, be your own self, realize what you're actually doing, and then just build upon that, basically.
Yeah, it's like we want to look at it for inspiration instead of desperation, right? Inspiration versus desperation. So, for example, if I'm going and looking at something fitness oriented and I look at a picture of a woman and she's exercising, and I sit there and I look at her body, and then instead of actually looking at what she's teaching me, all of a sudden I take it back and I'm comparing myself and I'm like, I'm ugly, I'm not good enough, she's so much better looking. That's desperation, right? That's like this desperation that we throw ourselves in, and we're just beating ourselves up. And what we've done in that moment, if we've discounted the beauty that we have. Here's the funny thing about beauty, guys, is that, I see this all the time, even with my own husband, right? Like, my husband to me is so handsome, which is great because I married him. But one of my friends, we have a giggle because she's like, I don't think your husband's attractive at all. And I was like, well, good. I'm glad we have a different type.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I'm super grateful we have a different type. But this is the comical part, is I could sit here and think he's like the hottest thing on the face of the planet. And she's like, man, whatever. Like, you did okay, right? And when she has guys she dates, I look and I'm like, man, whatever. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder, genuinely, because we all have different preferences. So if I'm sitting there beating myself up, or you are, on how you're supposed to look, you're actually discounting that you're quite attractive to multiple individuals on this planet, right? To the same degree as you're not attractive. It's just being around the people who you're their type. So that's comparing in a sense, where I'm going on and I'm looking at all these things and it's coming from its desperation and I'm beating myself up. Inspiration is if I go on and I'm like, you know what, I would actually really like to be fitter. Like, I'd love to improve my health. And then if I go on and I look at someone who I'm like, I think what they're doing, I can incorporate into my day-to-day life. Like, this person's doing, let's say, HIIT workouts or something, and she can teach me 15-minute mini workouts and I can fit that into my life. I'm going to study from her and I'm going to learn what she learns, and then I'm going to incorporate it. Or you're like, this person's teaching me how to do it on a nature hike, and I love nature hikes, right? So I'm going to watch this person. That's going on from inspiration. So there's two different ways that we can utilize it. And it's cool because we can catch ourselves and it's like, wow, like, I just really went on and beat myself up. Why do I think I'm not as attractive as this person? Or what do they think they have that I don't? And then we find it in ourselves in our own form, right? Or we go on after we finish that, because then we're going to stop comparing and imposter syndrome goes away, by the way. And then you can go get inspired by these people and you can learn what they're also trying to teach us. Because there's some people in there with some great level of mastery and education. There's some junk, but there's also some great mastery and education on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So, so you know, what are some practical tips or steps that individuals can take if they're looking to you know, go looking beyond the surface of their behavior? Hold on, sorry. What are
That's
some
okay.
practical steps individuals can take to start looking beyond the surface of their behavior? You know, without going, you know, too deep into it. Just, you know, one or two little things that they can do just to start that progress of trying to change their behavior.
First things first is to just figure out what inspires you most, what energizes you most, what lights you up. That's beyond crucially important. That step alone and making sure that you do it on a daily basis will change your life, right? It would genuinely change your life. That was one of the things that helped me just clear a significant quantity of anxiety. Like, you used to have chronic anxiety. So that was one of the things that really helped me, because I get anxious if I'm not allowed to live my life authentically, which is kind of a gift, by the way. If we think about it, like, oh, here it comes. What's going on, car? You know, I love that part of myself, by the way. So as soon as I started living my life in the way that I love to, it started to shift. Because what happens if you're waking up every day doing something that's inspiring to you? If you wake up and you look at your to-do list and you say, I want to do this, I choose to, I love to, right? Then what are you doing? You're filling your life with inspiration. I can't, like, I mean, it's just logical that you would feel differently and things would shift and change. Like, that's a logical transition. So giving yourself permission to do that. If you make a list and you're like, well, I can't do all that today, Carly. Well, it's like, okay, cool. Then that's your goal. And what can you do every day to start to reach that goal? Right? Like, if you can't actually live that life now, what steps can you take every day to reach that goal? Because even pursuing that goal will be inspiring and fulfilling and shift your perception, because you're going to start feeling lit up knowing that you're getting to where you want to go. You know, that builds self-confidence, self-esteem. So that's massive. And pardon me, the dog is like going crazy today. I don't know if you guys hear it, but like, yeah, like he's just going nuts. Usually it's pretty quiet, but today he's partying hard. Okay, so that like changes massively. Then the other component too is a really big one is catching your language. So whenever you say I should, I need to, I'm supposed to, I must, I got to, I have to, I ought to, all of these are those shoulds, right? We say it on a regular basis. Stop shoulding yourself. But then we sit there and we should ourselves. Catch it. Catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it. And stop. Stop. Genuinely stop. Because when you're saying I should do this according to who, right? So I should, like, go back to the digital marketing example. I should do digital marketing according to who? Well, most coaches do digital marketing. And that's what I learned from the person that I'm working with, this other coach that I'm working with. Okay, great. Right? That's according to them. But what do you really love to do? I don't love to do digital marketing. What do you love to do? I love speaking. I love being at events. Great. Go do that. You can create clients there. So it's like, when you're shoulding yourself, first we like to ask according to who, because you've actually put that person on a pedestal and you've labeled their form of their life better than yours. And you have that inside you. And then we ask, what's your form and how can you do that instead? You know, because even sometimes physical fitness is just health. And it's like, if you don't love to go out and you don't love to exercise, well, how do you love to focus on your health? Waking up every day and doing what you love is very healthy for you, because you're facing stresses that build your self-confidence, self-esteem. It's called eustress, not distress. You can look that up. It's pretty cool if you go into detail. And you're actually engaged in eustress, which we've shown is inspiring stress that actually builds and increases your health, as opposed to distress, which is when we're not doing what we want to do and we're living in those shoulds and we feel heavy and resentment and frustration, and that impacts your health. So there's all different ways to face and like tackle health. Like, what would you love to do? So that's a great one too. It's like, I love, choose to, want to, desire to. Those are all things that align with our true purpose and values. And if you're shoulding yourself, ask yourself those questions so that you can move forward into what's truly important to you.
Okay. So, so you're an international speaker, and so how do you feel that cultural differences impact your work as an international speaker?
It's more about me understanding that everyone has a cultural difference, right? They have all these differentiations based on how they were raised, their perceptions, their religions, their backgrounds, their histories, and that none of us are right and none of us are wrong. All of it is perfect for the individual, right? So if you popped me into a specific country, I might not do well. I might not do well just because of how I was raised and what I'm accustomed to. But that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. My unique purpose is fulfilled with the particular country I live in, right? So I like it so much. But other people, this is not their purpose. This is not what they would love to do. They want to have a different life and lifestyle. And so they'll find the cultures, the religions, the countries, the backgrounds that serve that. So part of my job is to make sure that I remember that, because that's the truth. How could we, there's 8 billion people on this planet, an insane amount of cultures and an insane amount of religions, and everyone out there is telling me they're right and wrong. Well, which one is accurate? So if I've gotten the opportunity to work with all these deep different people, what I find interesting is at the core of all these religions and the core of all these cultures, we have very similar ideals, and then there's just different rules around it. And again, who's right and who's wrong? I'm not going to sit there and tell you I'm right. So I connect with a person to understand what's important to them, what's valuable to them, and how to help them get what they want. And I think this is important for everyone to remember in life in general. Like when we help other people get what they want to help us get what we want. We also get what we want in the moment. Like it really serves us. Zig Ziglar said it in his about sales. I remember when I heard that, I was like, yeah, it's like, thanks. It's like cool way to put it.
So, can you discuss the relationship between human behavior and decision making in professional settings?
Yes. So when you say decision making by which individuals? Like
Um,
executives or leaders and stuff, or just
yeah, I guess you can go. Yeah, you can go to executive and leaders.
okay, perfect. Yeah. So when we think about that dynamic, we see companies with great cultures thrive, right? We see them thrive. And what they do is they also focus on their people. And it is in regards to human behavior, because we know that, and this is kind of like wrapping it up in a business sense. If you're waking up and going to a job that you hate, right? You absolutely hate that job. What do we know is going to happen? That employee is going to be unproductive. They'll probably distract other people as well. They'll complain a lot. They're not going to be innovating. They're not going to be contributing, right? And they also hate it there. So they don't really contribute to the other individuals who are trying to like work and thrive. And so what do? Do we kick that person out? No, it's also like check to see what's going on with our culture. And this is where the human behavior dynamic comes in, is how can we help people within a business, within these cultures, to understand the importance of the work they do. I remember working with someone she was an accountant at a magazine, right? And it was for knitting. And when we got to see, because she's like, it's not that big of a deal, but when we broke it down, it was amazing to see how many lives that she impacts by helping this company to stay stable because of her skills, right? She's the one who catches all the stuff when things could go wrong. She's the one who's like, in a year, this is going to be an issue. And then they get on it, right? So it's pretty cool. So she helps the company to thrive. And what we found out is that this particular magazine was bringing together, I think it was like 100,000 people at this event on a yearly basis. And it was like, how can you say you're not making an impact? And when you see that, you actually feel more inspired to do what you do. So it's like, let people know, when we think about human behavior, everyone wants to make a difference. And if you pop someone in a cubicle and just tell them to do a job and don't share with them the impact that they're making, that's sad. Like that's sad for you and that's sad for them. So it's like connect with your people, connect with everyone to let them know like the impact that they make on the world by doing what they do, because the company can't run without that one person in the wheel. They're so vital and so important. And when they remember that, that's something that they get to go and be more inspired by the job that they have. And that also just changes their personal life. Because if they get to wake up and say, hey, I love what I do and I see the difference I make, how do you think they act when they get home from work? You think they're tired, cranky, annoyed? No, they're like, guess what I got to do today? It was kind of challenging, but I did figure this out. I did overcome this. So when we think about human behavior in a company, it's like, it's also caring about employees. Like we care about our customer, but don't forget to care about your employees as well, to create that environment for them to thrive, and then you get to thrive.
Mm-hmm. So is that kind of like, differentiating a life of purpose and a life of duty?
For sure. And this is cool too, because there's so many opinions you hear in the world. It's again finding what works for you. Like there's going to be tons of opinions in the world, and there'll be people who say, you shouldn't be an employee, you shouldn't be that. That's a life of duty. Not true. If it's inspiring to you to help build a company more than to build your own company, that's your life by design. A life of duty would be trying to build your own company because you hate it. You don't even like it, where some people are the reverse, right? And so this is where truly understanding who you are and what you love in life is so important, because a life of duty is living by the shoulds. I should do this, I should do that, I need to do that, I'm supposed to do that. Where a life of inspiration is waking up every day and saying, this is what I would love to do, this is what I choose to do, this is what I desire to do, and going out and doing it, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First, you got to figure out you. Nobody can tell you what to do or how to do it. And eventually, some of it, someone sometimes might tell you what to do, and some of it might stick because they might have like guessed appropriately and it was in alignment with your life purpose and they got a hit. But you'll also notice that when you go out and you do the shoulds, right? A lot of them don't work out. A lot of them don't work out because it's more, and you're like depressed and you're sad about it, because it's more about what inspires us, and that does take some self-reflection and some time to figure out, but it's worth it. It's the difference of how you feel every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And everybody at some point probably sees that in their life. I know I do it all the time. I need to do this, I need to do that. But one thing that I did say I need to do, I was like, I need to, if I'm gonna actually be a podcast and I'm gonna do this, I need to take it serious. I need to do it, and I just need to keep going. And so that's this year. That's why I made the conscious effort to just start filming, keep recording, keep going. And I think I'm probably at like, I don't know. I think I got about a total of like 100 episodes this year alone.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I probably had 10 episodes for the last 3 years. So I had to get serious on it. I just put my mind to it, and I said, yeah, I got to do it. I got to do it. So, but yeah, um, so how has your understanding of human behavior evolved throughout your career?
Yes, it's more and more realizing just how unique we are. Like how unique each individual is, how we shift differently, we transform differently. Even just going through one session with one person, each one is so different in how they process something, how they view the world. And it's amazing. And I think what has been really amazing on this journey is realizing how spectacular the human race really truly is. I know that we have our challenges, but it's also part of what makes us magnificent, is like everything that we go through and how we overcome things and get to the other side, and how we innovate and how we transform our lives individually and as a society, as a whole, as a planet, right? It's actually quite inspiring. And when you get to speak with people and see how it was created, and it's not created from this space of only love, like only love in the sense of like, support, right? It's also created in a sense of love from challenges, from things that we've gone through that have been hard, that we want to shift or transform and make a difference in the world because we went through this. So we want someone else to experience something different. We want to help them get to the other side of the same challenge, right? And so that's real love right there, is that seeing that it's not just support that's love, it's also the challenges that are also love, and that we get that on a regular basis. It's hard sometimes for us to see it in the moment because there's a lot going on. And no one ever taught us how to do this growing up. This is not like normal education, but it's like how all these things, yes, serve us, right? And how to move through it. But fortunately, we are living in a different world in this degree as well, where we have access to more education, information, where I know not just myself, but others are teaching people how to shift their perceptions, their mindset, so that they can view the world differently as well. And when we apply it, it really makes a difference in our lives.
Yep, yeah, I would agree. So, in your work, what role do you feel like that empathy plays and how do you cultivate it in others?
Yeah. So when you think about empathy, right? It's and this is a cool one because there's empathy and compassion. The origin of the word compassion, passion, actually, if you look at the etymology, means to suffer, right? So that's why I don't say follow your passions. I say follow your inspiration because a passion is to suffer. We actually only see only pleasure with a passion. So it's all pleasure, no pain, which we know life doesn't give you all pleasure, no pain. Life has both sides. So a passion will make you suffer if you're only seeking pleasure, but inspiration is facing challenge with support, right? So that's why I say inspiration. Compassion is to suffer with, right? So it's really cool because this, if we have compassion for someone, we're actually suffering them because they are reminding us of an old wound, an old challenge, something that is unresolved inside of us, and we're trying to save them from it. When we clear that part inside ourselves, we'll stop trying to save someone from it. And instead, we have empathy, where we understand what they're going through. And we will be supportive to a certain degree, but not so much that we would paralyze them with support. We're also going to challenge them to get to the other side. We're going to be that inspiring person that challenges and supports them. So empathy is a great understanding of what one's going through without over supporting them because you're trying to save them from a circumstance. We look instead how to empower them. It's really cool because it's cool. I mean, I love obviously personal development. I mean, I'm sure it's obvious by now, but I love like when we get compassion and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to save this person. What have I not worked out in myself that I'm literally trying to save this person from their life existence, their own personal challenges that they're meant to go through? Like, how can I clear that within myself so I can come forward and help them with a more balanced perspective, right? And it's cool because you really can help someone with a balanced perspective and help them to get to the other side when we're not emotional about it. We get rid of the emotional attachment and those emotional highs and lows, and we're more objective. And that's where like empathy comes in, where it can be quite a helpful tool. Yeah.
Okay. So with the work that you do, I'm pretty sure you get a lot of people that are, kind of hesitant, about it. So how do you address skepticism from individuals who may be resistant to change?
Yeah, we find out why. This is what when I say I love finding out about people and how amazing and magnificent we are. This is one of the things that makes us magnificent. If in the moment you're resisting change, there's a reason. The circumstances you're in right now are providing you one or many things that if I help you create the change in your life, you're going to lose. And you don't want to do that. So I like to go in and find out why you're resisting the change, what you're going to lose, if we can find a suitable replacement for it. Because sometimes someone will be like, well, I'm resisting the change to becoming a full-time entrepreneur. It's like, well, what are you going to lose? Right. And I was doing this work with someone. It's like, well, I will lose my income, which to them was significant. And so it's like, okay, do you have an alternative source of income yet? And he said, no. So now he's working on the alternative source of income. So he stayed in his job. He's working on passive investments and other things that can build an alternative source of income. Because why would I want to rob him of his like wealth? Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And then also finding like a strategic way to slowly even integrate this new business while he's doing all that stuff in the background. Right. And so it's like finding why you have the resistance and then coming up with a strategy and solution to make the change at your own pace in your own form. Right. Because we want to find out what the resistance is. I mean, I would have cost that guy like tens of millions of dollars. Not cool. Not cool. So do I want to sit there and force him to change? No, not cool. Like, thank you for letting me know that's why you didn't want to change. And let's work around that, please.
Well, you help them build a plan though. So that's what it's about. Building a
Yeah, I don't need change right now. Yeah.
No, don't just go tomorrow and quit your job tomorrow now.
Yeah, but when we're frustrated, like he was frustrated with himself and he was like, I need to do this now. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not following this? I know I can do it. He can do it. But what it would have cost him, it just wasn't going to work. So it's like, how can we build the business strategically? So instead of you taking a gap in your income, build the business while you're still creating the income in this way. So you're doing it simultaneously. So one doesn't rob the other, right? First, find out your strategy. If you're beating yourself up for not wanting to change, find out why you're doing it. And there's a genius. There's some genius behind there, and you can thank your intuition.
That's right. That's right. So let's see. So what advice do you have for individuals struggling with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so this is cool because we've talked about this in different ways. So we'll kind of compile it again in another form.
Okay.
So it'll help you just really implant where this comes from. So imposter syndrome is simply that comparison. It's that dysmorphia we were talking about. You
Mhm.
watched the Instagram video, you watched a movie, you saw someone else, you met someone else, you saw someone speak live, right? And all of a sudden you perceive that they have something that you don't. That was your perception. And then the imposter comes in, and the imposter says, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't have what it takes, right? When the reality is you have it, you just have it in your own form, right? You have it in your own form, not the other person's. And so it's pretty cool because it's like when we look at even human behavior, right? Everyone has a level of human behavior and expertise in their own lives in their own forms. Any parent out there, I know you know human behavior. Like, I just know it. If you're a parent. Also, if you're a kid, how many times have you manipulated your parents? Like,
Oh,
that's us understanding human behavior. So you can go back and look where you have a level of understanding. It's just we forget because some things we're doing every day over and over and over again, right? So it's kind of when that imposter comes in, we're looking on the outside saying they have something that we don't. Anything that you see on the outside that someone else has, we have as well. The imposter also comes in when we're really frustrated with people. And what winds up happening is like, I could be really frustrated with someone, I could be angry at them. And then I say, you're a bad person, I'm a good person. That's an imposter. There's actually like an imposter because there's a persona that I've put on. I'm hiding again that I have the same thing I see on the outside on the inside. Everyone loves when I tell them that they have the good things that they label good. All the things they label good, when I say you have that as well, they get so excited. But I'm like, but wait, that goes both ways. You also
yeah,
have the things that you don't like.
yeah.
Here's the thing, the reason why you don't like it, right? And then when we try to deny it, that persona comes in, which is an imposter. It's not who you really are. It's not your authentic self. The reason why we deny it in ourselves is because we have guilt and shame for the times that we've done it as well. We can't understand why. And this is where I say love, true inspiration comes from being able to have challenge and support in our lives, right? We don't, when we think about the people who supported us and over supported us, you can go back and look and you'll see that there's a certain level of paralyzation that comes in with that because they made us really comfortable and we didn't push ourselves to grow. But the challengers in our lives, the ones that really pushed us hard, those are the ones that got us to step outside of our comfort zone, to use our voice, to speak up, to do things we didn't think we could do. And so when you really look at that and you look at that like lifestyle, you're like, oh my gosh, well, what am I meant to be? You're meant to be both. There's going to be moments when you're challenging and moments when you're supportive. It's when you can't see the beauty and perfection that you were the perfect challenger in that moment to help someone get to the other side that you judge and like depreciate yourself and you have guilt and shame for what you've done. So it's going back and seeing how that actually serves a purpose for that person. Any challenge that you've caused to anyone is purposeful to them, and there'll be a perfection in why they needed that in that moment. And you can ask yourself that question to clear the guilt and shame, and then that imposter can go away as well, which we also can do with the people that are challenging us too. So we can have more gratitude, love, and appreciation for our life and our experiences. We say, it's like, well, how is this actually helping me to grow right now? How is this helping me to evolve? How is this helping me with what's important to me going through this particular challenge? And then when you see it, you're like, okay, I got it. It's hard, but this is what I actually wanted. Like, this is going to help me get to where I want to go. Okay, I could do this. I got this.
Right, right. So, you know, us being humans, we tend to fall back on what we were already doing before because it was a habit. It was what we were used to. It's what we've known. So, how do you help clients maintain their progress and avoid falling back into their old patterns?
Well, we want to see what the old patterns are because sometimes we're judging them and labeling them. I had a client who wanted to start delegating more things, but they kept falling back and they were judging themselves because they kept mowing the lawn. And they're like, I just don't have the time, Carly, and I don't know why I keep doing this. And it was something incredibly frustrating to them. They're like, I'm paying other people to do other stuff. And I was like, okay, well, why are you mowing the lawn? And when we got down to it, what was amazing, it was a really meditative moment for him. And he got some amazing insights and some amazing business ideas, and things that he could work with his clients on. And I was like, well, why would you want to stop that? Like, obviously, like, that's your quiet time to get what you want. I know some people, they get it when they take a shower, right? Like one of my clients, she has one of those little waterproof notepads because she gets great ideas in the shower. It's hysterical. But some of our habits are actually there because they're serving us. Find out what it's doing first before you keep beating yourself up and saying, I need to get rid of this. Because at the end of it, if it's something that's really helpful, like, then you're going to want to hold on to it. If it's something that's helpful, but also causes some damage. So for example, I had a client who had eating disorder, right? And when we found out what they were eating, we found out they were eating those specific foods because they actually had like some anxiety. And these specific foods are known to actually calm anxiety down. So it's not really that they had an eating disorder. It's just this was the best tool that they had right now to lower their anxiety. And so it was like, all right, let's find alternative options. I mean, we obviously did the work on like the root of the anxiety, but you also want to find alternative options to help you that could be of assistance, because if you don't, you'll just go back to the same thing. So that's another reason why you want to find out what it's doing for you. Because for example, if it's a habit that could be more destructive or, challenge your health, it's still giving you something. And then find alternative solutions that are healthy that you're willing to implement, that are inspiring to you. And that's pretty cool. Like I said, we're geniuses, and we don't even realize like the strategies that we have in place to help ourselves until we ask the quality questions. And then in those moments, it's like, do I even need to get rid of that? Well, no, actually, it's not even causing any harm to my life. In essence, it's actually serving me. Or if it is causing challenges, it's like, well, what can I replace it with that would give me the same results? That would be something that inspires me. And do a lot. Give yourself multiple options. So whichever one works best for you, you could be like, that's the one. Those are going to work best. And you can utilize multiple things in multiple times. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what message do you try to leave with individuals who attend your engagements, who book your consultations, or even the viewers that's watching the podcast? Like, what message do you hope to leave them with?
Yeah, everyone on this planet is capable of and deserves to wake up every day loving their life. Genuinely, every single person. It's part of what we're destined to have. So it's sometimes people say, well, like, I'll never have it or I can't have it. BS, genuine BS. Like, you pay attention to what's important to you, prioritize it every day. If you can't prioritize it every day, figure out how you can create a life that could help you prioritize it and work on that. And that, again, that in itself is fulfilling. Every person on this planet has that right. And I'm telling you, like, from someone who just felt so life is awful, life sucks. Like, why are we here? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? To like, oh my gosh, life is like so inspiring. That's a huge transformation and a huge shift for me. And I'm telling you, like, it's like everyone can have that. And it does take work, but it's just the reward in itself. It's like, it's not something that you're going to give up. Once you get a hint, you're like, I'm not giving this up. I'll do whatever it takes to keep this going. Yeah.
Right. So if anyone wants to, book you for a consultation, if you offer courses or anything like that, or if you have a book that they can find, where can they find all this at? Do you have like a website they can go to and find all this information, or?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, carlypepin.com. That's perfect. And then it has the workshops and then all the social media links and direct contact, all that fun stuff.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I definitely want to take this time to tell you that I appreciate you very much for taking the time out your busy schedule to come on and have a chat with me and talk with the audience and give them different tips on, personal growth, personal development, and hopefully that helps with, some of their, hopefully they take these few little tips, run with them, and it helps with their mental health in addition to that. So that way we can, create a better person to create a better life and create a better world for the future. So
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was inspiring.
no problem at all. Everybody that's watching, you guys, you go to Carly's website, carlypepin.com. All the links will be in the description, and if you're listening to the audio version, it'll be in the show notes. But you guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.